Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight on this fabulous Tuesday evening. I'm Rachel Grant, and I'm here tonight with my very special guest, Trish McKnight, and we are going to be talking with you all tonight about the hidden pains of abuse. And I'm so glad that you have set aside this time for yourself and for us, and so I welcome you to find a comfy position, grab a little cup of tea, whatever you might need to kind of settle in and be present. Do your best to remove any other distractions that might be around you and be with us here tonight. So a little bit about what we're going to be doing this evening. I'm going to start off just by telling you a little bit about myself because I know some of you may be new and not know much about me. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Trish, and then we're going to just get right to it and have a conversation. And just as a reminder, we will have time at the end of our call tonight for questions and answers. So certainly be jotting down, anything that's coming up for you as we're going through our conversation tonight, or, any question really is welcome. It doesn't necessarily have to be direct. Tied to what we're covering tonight. All questions are welcome, so be thinking a little bit about that as we go through our call tonight. So just a little bit about me. Again, I'm Rachel Grant, and I'm a sexual abuse recovery coach. I work with survivors of childhood sexual abuse who are really in that place where they're just sick and tired, of feeling broken, unfixable, burdened by the past. And I help them let go of the pain of abuse and finally feel normal through my 8-month program, Beyond Surviving. I've had the great pleasure of doing this work for over 7 years now, and it's been a really wonderful journey. I'm also the author of a guidebook called Beyond Surviving, The Final Stage in Recovery from Sexual Abuse, and we'll be telling you a little bit more about the program and the book later on. As we go along here. You're, of course, always welcome to go to my website, rachelgrantcoaching.com, if you want to learn a little bit more about me or check out some of the resources that are there and available to you. So, Trish, what can I tell you about this wonderful lady, Trish? I'll read you the bio, but then I'm just going to tell you about her. So Trish is the author of My Justice, which is a graphic detail of the abandonment she encountered throughout the many years of abuse and the years of secondary wounding, which have cycled through to impact the lives of her children. Trish is the owner, CEO of Butterfly Dreams Abuse Recovery and the previous host and producer of Butterfly Dreams Talk Radio. So Trish and I got connected, I don't know, it's probably been a year already. I have no idea how time flies these days, but it just seems to. And we're talking with each other, sharing our stories, sharing our vision for survivors and what we really, our hearts for really what we want to see happening. And, one of the things I got from Trish right away was that she was a pretty hardcore lady and was going to be sticking with the fight no matter what. And through many ups and downs and, obstacles, all these sorts of things that have come at her, she has just continued to persevere and fight the good fight on behalf of survivors. So you all are really in for a great treat tonight to get to hear her and hear her story and learn from her experience. So with that, I'd love to welcome you, Trish. Thank you so much for being here.
Wow, Rachel, thank you. It's really quite a pleasure. I so respect you, the work that you do. It has been about a year since we did the special interview between you and I on the Butterfly Dreams Talk Radio, but then there was so much more, as you said, between the relationship we've built. Yes, I did go public with my story back in, it was released in February 2011. It is titled My Justice, and actually my son created the cover, which I get so many compliments on, with the little girl and the angel wings and holding the red rose, and he actually designed that specifically for that book. and it's quite an honor to have his artwork displayed on it.
Mm-hmm.
In the time that I was going through my healing and my process of trying to find myself and working through my third nervous breakdown, is when I wrote the book. I just felt this deep need. We get to that point to where everything is just boiling out of us, and we don't know what to do with it. I just started writing. All I could think about is how it had all cycled through and how dysfunctional my children's lives were as a result of my choices, my decisions, and then how those had actually been influenced by the life that I had been so deeply trained to live and to accept in degradation and violence. So, it starts with us as children, but if we don't let go of that and don't work through that, it will come out in our emotional ways that we deal with our children. Our children can trigger us at different stages of their lives. And, so I really got to thinking about what I wanted to do with myself and in my healing process and how much it mattered to me that we as survivors, because this is the first generation that has actually been brave enough to be so forward and so blatantly honest about these things. Because before us, our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, it was just expected that was life, and life happened and you dealt with it, but you didn't talk about it. So, we boil over. I wrote the book. Then I decided with an amazing team behind me, Michael Madison, the watercolor artist out of California, Kelly Townsend, who is a great fighter for domestic violence rights, his wife, Julia, and then we had actually the gentleman who is running for governor now of Arizona, and that is Mr. John Mueller, and volunteers across the net, Mary Graziano, Debbie Naylor-Cox, and Janice Hendricks, and, oh my goodness gracious, Faith McDaniels, just an amazing team of people, and I hope that I've mentioned everyone who was behind the creation and the building of Butterfly Dreams Abuse Recovery. So I built the website. I loaded it with all the information that I could put together in thinking about how it all affected me as a child and what I needed from the adults around me and from the society around me that could have and should have done something. So, your topic tonight, the, hidden pain of abuse, is most definitely, exactly that. It is a process of why don't we tell, and, how horrible is it that you get to that point, running away at 9 years old and feeling instantly like I needed to kill myself and just get rid of myself because I was this horrible, horrible person. But yet nobody on the outside within this small community ever saw anything. So, you and I and others who are supporting and giving peer support and recommending therapy sessions and group therapy and just helping people get through the moment are very, very crucial pieces of the puzzle to healing and letting go of what's inside of us. I'm grateful tremendously for everyone that's been behind me on this. And here locally, I'm very proud to say that I am I'm actually a partner provider of the FBI's Human Trafficking Task Force of Southwestern Illinois. And I am also very, very honored to be a base building member in the Illinois Victims Assistance Network that is growing to connect providers across the state of Illinois and will be the key access point for all victims of all types of crime here in the state where I live.
That's awesome, Trish. You're
right?
such a powerful advocate and, are so connected, really, into making sure that that there's a forward movement as far as,
Annie, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Everybody, Annie
She's
says
welcome.
hi. She's sorry. Anyway, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Yes.
No, it's okay. I was just saying that, you're a strong advocate and you're really tuned in and moving things forward on so many fronts. And, for you in writing your story, I wonder if you could just share with us a little bit, about what your experience was and, kind of what you went through that you, of course, share about in your book. But just to give us a little bit of a sense of what your journey's been like personally.
Okay, how much time do we have? I'm always joking. I joke with that because,
it's a lot, right?
Anybody that's read My Justice or anyone that's talked to me, those people that know me now and those people that knew me then, that see me out on the net now, it amazes them and sadly horrifies them and shocks them that there was so much abuse that went on. At the age of 5, my mother married a man whose own adult son had warned her about how evil he really was. And the first time he attacked me was the night of my mother's bridal shower. I was 5, and my older brother and 2 neighborhood boys were there. They witnessed it all. It was a violent, probing and vile attack, and he actually got more of a thrill because the boys were in the room with us. Sadly, for the next 12 years, it was all filled with insanity and vicious attacks. It probed and prodded and ejaculated on almost every part of my body. And at the age of 9, my mother had walked in early from work on a Saturday afternoon, my brother and little sister outside playing, and she walks in the bedroom and finds her 9-year-old daughter naked, his erection ready to be inserted, and she looked at me, yelled at me, and sent me to my room for the night. I got to come out to clean up the dinner dishes. At 11, he began taking me to the local bars in the small southwestern Illinois town where we lived. And we lived in the center of town for at least 9 consecutive years, in the same little house. Everybody knew us. The entire community knew who we were. My brother and myself and my sister, we all attended the same school system, so on and so forth. You know what it's like growing up in that little neighborhood.
Right.
My stepfather enjoyed not only teaching me how to entice men whenever he took me out to the bars, but even more so when they shared an interest in his little treasure. But if no one took him up on his offer to take me outside or to take me in the woods or to take me in the car or to take me in the back of the tugboat, then I was beaten, and I was told how disgusting and how he would be the only person who would ever want anything to do with me. At around 12, I had gone to my mother the third and final time for help. She had never stopped him or defended me in any way, no matter how much I begged her. She saw him come into the bathroom repeatedly when I was bathing, and I'd scream for her, but she wouldn't do anything about it. She allowed him to take me out for the day, fill me with alcohol and weed, and, that's when he would take me to the tugboats or wherever his so-called buddies were hanging out at. And then he'd take me back home at night, stoned and drunk, and send me up to bed. She denied me any and all forms of medical and dental care. I wasn't given a toothbrush. I wasn't taught about caring for myself in the form of lotion for dry skin, deodorant to keep the hygiene good. Any of that, we never discussed any of that at all. She didn't care about any of that. My introduction to that mother-daughter talk, when my period came, she handed me a Playboy magazine and told me that that's what women are supposed to do. She used me. I was the family caregiver. I cleaned the house every Saturday and every evening. I helped my sister with homework. I cooked dinner. I did laundry. That all started at around 9 years old, and that's what I grew up knowing how to do. I didn't have friends that I went out to play with or do anything with. I was trapped inside all of the time, inside this family of insanity. And, God forbid if something wasn't done appropriately, and, even more so, she had bought him a little brass bell. And when he rang that bell, no matter where I was or what I was doing, I better come running.
Gotcha.
Because of all of the extreme neglect that existed in my home, my skin, I've shared many times, my skin started getting covered with not only the filth that was in all of the crevices, because when I stopped bathing to protect myself, since she wouldn't, imagine, if you will, a 12-year-old child making the decision for herself, I am never going to bathe in this house again.
Right.
And hold that decision strong and firm for 5 solid years until I left. For 5 years, I didn't bathe. An infection got on my skin, and it covered my skin, and it left deep pitted scars that I still carry today. Look like cigarette burns all over my arms and legs. My teeth are all rotted away. I'm missing, front teeth, and the ones that I had fixed are now all breaking out of my mouth, and, we become responsible for our medical care and our medical expenses as we grow up, and, that's all part of that hidden pain, because, that's an expense we've got to take care of because of what happened then, including therapy, including anything else, the physical damage, let alone from all the beatings, I'm permanently disabled and live with a spinal cord injury and trauma that, it causes an intense body pain, constant medication with morphine, and, tons of bed rest. So, my quality of life issues are there, and it's all part of it. But during all of that ugliness that happened, there were late-night parties where I was used as a party favor with adult men while my mother slept in the other room. And these were her friends' husbands. that came to our house to play with her child. There were schoolmates that would come to Saturday evening parties filled with alcohol and weed, but on Monday morning, they had no clue who I was, and they would turn and walk in the other direction and deny that they ever got oral sex from me or that they ever attended any of these parties. The girls in our community were not allowed to friend me, and the boys in the community were not allowed to date me. By the time I was 13, the tag that had been given to me was the village whore, because their husbands and their older sons were all using me in my stepfather's vicious cycle of trafficking. So the hands and the times that I've been abused and raped and beaten are more than I can possibly express.
So
the one vicious attack. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just want to. I don't want to necessarily interrupt, but I guess what I want to just kind of present for everybody who's listening is that one of the things that you're modeling so beautifully for us is removing the secrecy. Being able to tell our story. And without shame, without guilt, without really holding back any punches. I mean, not everybody has to tell their story the way you tell your story, but what I love about it is that you're just such a model for just saying what's so about the experience. This is what happened. This is what I went through, and here's the impact and the repercussions of that for me. And
absolutely,
yeah.
And we've got to, we don't have to be ugly about the things that happen to us. We don't even have to release the names of the people who have harmed us and who was responsible. But for us, we really, really have to absorb it. We, in a sense, as tragic as it is, we're the ones left to own it and carry it and live with it and try to rise above it and to be resilient in life, because it creates a pattern. You know it, I know it, our listeners know it from self-destructive behaviors with drugs and alcohol and promiscuous behaviors and just this cycle of madness that goes on in our world, the depression, the anxiety, the post-traumatic stress disorders, the having to reach out for mental health support and carrying all of this as we try to struggle to build a life, because society still says to us, not our fault that all this happened to you. And you still, in order to gain society's respect, you still need to be a productive member of society. You need to have a job. I ended up, I became a mom at the age of 20. And of course, the cycle, like I said, invaded through. So there was a lot of violent and vicious attacks that went on through my adult years. I was 37 before I ever went in to see a therapist or ever went in to get any form of medical treatment, and that was only because I had 2 broken collarbones, a concussion, and some broken ribs. But if it wouldn't have been for that doctor taking the time to tell me, you need some help, I'm sending you over to the family therapy clinic, I never would have ever gotten out of it. And to give my children a safe, happy, loving home was all that I ever wanted for them. It was all that I could possibly do for them. Thank heaven I had gone back to school and I had gotten a business degree that I could build us a life on. I could support us on. And I bought us a home, and, we lived for 5 years as a happy family, getting to know each other without chaos and insanity and violence around us. And, my kids, unfortunately, it just wasn't enough for them to help them. And, even though there was therapy and talking and working through things together, it wasn't enough because of the damage that had been done and the influences. I mean, imagine being a child and, again, having to hide your sisters in a closet because your stepfather is bashing the crap out of your mom downstairs, and you're terrified as a little boy. You've got a gumball machine, little bitty 1-inch pocket blade knife that you're going to stand in front of this closet and defend your sisters.
Yeah.
And then have to go to school the next day. But the house seemed like it was all back to normal.
Yeah.
The fight was done. So,
this is one of the things that, that I think is really coming through in your story is, we talked about, in the layers. There are all things that are going on, when abuse is happening. There's, what's happening with the spouse or other people who are involved, the other adults who are around, what's going on with them? And then there's the, what's happening with the other children who are in the household, and some of them may be being abused, some of them not. And all of those dynamics that we, have to kind of make sense of. And then you talk about this idea of, secondary wounding. Can you maybe take a moment to just kind of define that for us? Some of us, listening may not know exactly what we mean, by that. So let's just take a moment here to define that for folks and then talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. In my recovery process, I had to understand all of the pieces that made up who I was and how all of the abuses and the attacks against me had built this person so confused and dysfunctional in life. No financial skills or anything like that, but, I had job skills, I could work, but anyway, so I had to understand all of it. So I started studying the National Institute of Mental Health website and the CDC website, I researched every possible disorder that had ever been mentioned to me in therapy. And one of those processes was secondary wounding. And in secondary wounding, you're out in society, and society doesn't know that the color blue sets off a serious fear for you. You can't leave your job because the office is painted the same color blue as your kitchen as you were a child. You've got to grab hold of yourself and of your reactions, because your instant trained reactions are to panic and run and hide. But you have to stay stable. You can't let on that anything at all is setting you off. Who are you going to talk to about it, and who's going to listen to something so insane? And I call it insane because we know how it makes us feel, but society has no clue about the understanding. So for me, that secondary wounding is the result of the ongoing relationships that we are building as adults and the ongoing life that we're trying to live as adults, but without anybody truly understanding what sets us off, what's a trigger point for us, what terrifies us, and and trying to grab hold of that and control that whenever you are in society's grasp.
Yeah, it's almost like, and this is certainly something that I work with my clients quite a bit with, and, I certainly have experienced myself, is that it's this duality of existence that we almost have to hold. It's like, okay, I've got to, excuse my French, keep my shit together, during the day and, get out there and, do my job, raise the kids, get the groceries. And then there's this other part of it.
Go out for a couple of drinks, because once you get out in society for a couple of drinks, or you're at a party, or you're at a friend's house for dinner, and you're having adult beverages or something to where you loosen up a little bit, and your inhibitions tend to release, and the next thing you know, you're in a private conversation with someone, and oh my gosh, parts of you are coming out, and you see these behaviors, and, you get home and you think about, oh, God, I did this. I can't believe I did this in front of them. Oh, no, and then you go into work the next day and you're worried sick about what they're going to think of you.
Right. Yeah, it's like we can only hold up the facade and the mask for so long. It gets pretty exhausting.
It does.
To sit behind it all the time, which is, one of the things that, we're kind of reaching at today in this call is this idea, this hidden pain. The idea that for whatever reason, sexual abuse is supposed to be this thing that you just kind of hold and keep behind the closed doors and deal with it in your own quiet way. No, that doesn't work.
I think the majority of people, when you look back in our history, we didn't even have child protection laws until 1984, technically 1963, but no real development was formed nationally until 1984. Rights for women, protective rights for women, were not established until 1994. And here it is 2014, and we finally are including the word male as being victims. So it's like this cycle that society has to go through, but yet we see, if you watch television, even in the family sitcoms that are on TV on a daily basis that you sit and watch with your children, you see, and trust me, I have nothing against gay couples. I'm not racist in any way, shape, or form. I am loving of all persons. I don't care who you are or what you look like. I just care about how you are treating other people. That's all I worry about. But you see, our children are beginning to understand, the rights of gays and lesbians and transgenders. They are beginning to understand, language that is used in these family sitcoms, way before they should ever have to hear anything like that. It's so common to hear the word, oh, she's a slut on television. Really?
Right. Yeah. The socialization of children, the sexualization of children so soon, so early on.
Indeed, right?
Yeah.
The idea of society is that it's only sex. What's the big deal? Well, the big deal is that if you go back and you study and you look at the history and you look at the development of a child's brain, whenever sexual actions are being forced onto them at young ages, even as young as 6 months old, there is an interruption in their brain development. That's why we are growing up as adults with these difficulties, is that there is a proven scientific listing of the damage. I even did a radio show on it, of the developmental brain interruptions that happen when this occurs. It's not just sex. It's not something that the child will just get over. It is a serious interruption of their life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm right now I'm reading a fascinating book called The Boy Who Was Raised by Dogs. Anyone who's listening and is interested.
Yes.
Yeah. And, this is a child psychiatrist who started out in, the early days before, where exactly what you're talking about. Oh, kids are resilient. They'll get over it. It's no big deal. They'll bounce back. Like, what are you talking about? And he actually...
Right. We know better, right?
Yeah. And, his work, I think, is brilliant. For anyone who follows my work or knows me, my fascination and my work very much ties into the brain, exactly what you're talking about, how the brain is impacted by trauma, and in understanding that, what that then tells us about how we actually heal and move on and get better, because while the brain is, challenged and shaped and changed by abuse, it's also very pliable, very resilient and transformable. And so we're not stuck that way. It's just that we have some things that we have to kind of undo, so to speak, and it's totally doable.
It is. We have to actually retrain our brains. It is the way that I actually address it. You're used to doing behaviors in the A, B, C, and D way. Well, now you've got to go back and learn how to do those things all over again without having that impact, and to change yourself into that resilient person who can climb above that cruelty. Retraining our behaviors is key, and learning to adjust to the outside world and keep the understanding in your brain, as hard as it may be, that the neighbor next door has absolutely no clue of the impacts that you have gone through in life. And you have no idea about theirs.
For sure. So let's talk about this a little bit. Here we are. We go through this experience of abuse. We have this moment where somebody is, using us for their own devices, their own pleasures, out of their own choice. There's nothing that we're doing that's causing that to happen. And then, we have to manage, there are people around us who knew about it. And, man, Trish, just your story of your mom, God, that's so rough. And I know so many of our clients and so many of the people who are listening go through that. But then, we reach an age, and like you said, there comes a point where it's like, okay, enough of this. Like, I'm going to have to do something here, and I've got to heal. I've got to move on.
Life like this. Correct.
Right. So what were some of the things that you found to be critical in your own journey in rebuilding your life and finally feeling victorious over, this past and this experience that you had been through?
Mine may have been, and I say may have been because I've come across a lot of survivors that I've talked with and supported in their journeys, and their stories, oh my God, they just break my heart so badly, because they are so tragic, and they make me feel like my story is nothing compared to what they went through. The empathy that I feel for them. Mine was very public. The neighbors saw it. schoolmates saw it. The teachers saw it. Law enforcement, the people who actually did the abusing and took part in the trafficking, they witnessed it. They saw the rot of my skin. They avoided any contact with me. They shamed me into believing that I was the creature that my parents were creating. Mm-hmm. And, what I will admit, it still angers me to this day.
Fair enough.
That, that not one single person in that town, and trust me, this was a town to where, if I smoked a cigarette on one end of town, by the time I got to the other end of town, absolutely everybody
I totally
in
know
town
what you're
knew
talking
what the hell
about.
I had done,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it's not like they didn't know us. We lived in the center of town. We all attended the same school system. Here I was, this rotting, ugly child covered with sores and rotting teeth and greasy hair and filth-encrusted skin, and my brother and sister looked perfectly normal. Mm-hmm. Pretty smiles and clean and bathed in clean clothes and the whole nine yards. Their school pictures are marvelous. Mine, I've got wrinkled hip clothes, and because I'm digging clothes out of my sister's side of the dresser drawer, I'm wearing her little girl size 5 underwear whenever I'm 12 years old because I don't have any of my own. I wasn't a human being to my mother. I became his property when she married him, and to her, that's what I was. Mm-hmm. So the outside people who knew all of this, I still have issues with anger and grief, and I believe that there are stages that we go through in our healing process. We have to first absorb actually what happened. And in doing this, we see a lot of shame in ourselves. But don't kid yourself, because that shame was drilled in there by the people surrounding you that did not do anything to help you. So in rebuilding ourselves, there are tools that I use for everyone. They are actually listed on the homepage of the Butterfly Dreams Abuse Recovery website, which everybody will find at www.butterflydreamsabuserecovery.com. And they are different stages of rebuilding tools. You have the long-term goal list, where you got to kind of really think, what do I want to do in life? Where do I want to be in 5 years? Mm-hmm. And write that down for yourself. And then take a few moments to think about what you need to do to get to that point, and list those tools. If you've had to relocate to leave an abusive partner, for instance, you're going to have to get housing. You're going to have to apply for assistance. You're going to have to check into the court system to make sure that your address and your victim's rights are protected. You are going to have to check into schooling so that you can get an education, so that you can get a job, and then be able to get a house and pay your rent and pay your bills and go, do the groceries and do the kids or whatever you need to do. So you have your long-term goal list. Then you actually have to have your short-term daily goal list. Anything from cleaning out the closets to going to the grocery store to checking into schools, whatever it needs to be done that day. My belief, and what I found worked for me, is that in completing my little daily goal list, I was able to start seeing value in myself. I could now see that, yes, I could complete a task. Yes, I could balance a checkbook. Yes, I could make up grocery lists and go by myself. I could take care of my house, my children. I had value. I wasn't stripped of nothing. The third part of that is something that I promote to absolutely everyone. I don't care who you are. If you have bad days, this is key, and that is to start a positivity list, a list of important things that you realize good about yourself. You know, not in your physical traits, but in you as a person. I can accomplish my daily goal list. I have a fabulous long-term goal list. I will accomplish this. I am able to get a job. I am able to support myself. I am able to walk outside and face society without allowing the secondary triggers to send me into a whirlwind. And on that positivity list, you want to talk to your family, if your family is still supporting you. You know, as you know, a lot of family disengages from us when we start telling our stories. So be prepared, everyone, if you tell your story. You may be disengaged from your family. But if you have friends and coworkers, if your boss gives you a compliment on a job well done, write it on this list. Carry this list with you wherever you go. I, at one time, had Post-its all around my house, and I would actually stand in front of the bathroom mirror every morning and give myself a pep talk about how I had to get through the day, because I couldn't just quit life. I don't believe in that. You can't just quit life. You know, the fourth part that I use for everyone is to learn about your wounds. Study. You know, if you're given a diagnosis, the Internet is filled with information. We have sites and resources for sexual abuse survivors. We have sites and resources for PTSD. For, you know, the National Institute of Mental Health and the CDC became my best friends. You know, I researched absolutely everything, and especially for my shows that I used to do. You know, some other helpful information is, you know, to help yourself change the repetitive patterns and keep you from becoming a victim. Recognize the signs. You know, an abusive person looks for signs in their next victim. They want, you know, we tend to show a lack in self-confidence, our sunken posture, rather than a strong, confident nature. We're quiet and very rarely ever share our thoughts or opinions because we're so afraid that others will say that, you know, we're stupid, it doesn't mean anything, you don't know what you're talking about. Stepping out of the way for others and standing in the shadows. Submissive in nature to avoid confrontation for fear of being harmed or disappointing someone. You know, we've got to protect ourselves. We don't want to become somebody's victim. We don't want to live that lifelong pattern of being a victim. So, you know, what you do and what we can do as a society to help support children who've been abused, to, you know, victims who've gone through any type of personally violating crime, it is to give them that support, to give them that positivity feeling that they can put in their list and carry with them and dig out of their pocket whenever they're having a trigger. You know, go off by yourself. Go hide in the bathroom for 5 minutes and look and read that positivity list. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Those
definitely.
are the tools that I use. And,
That's awesome.
you know, the tools that I've created are, you know, what I call the steps to recovery, and just those daily little things to help us get through.
Yeah, and, you know, one thing that, you know, just stands out to me is that, you know, it can be the simplest, smallest things that we have to focus on sometimes. And even things like, you know, shifting our posture. we're not saying that, if you stand upright, nobody's ever going to abuse you, nobody's ever going to attack you. Because we want to be careful not to fall into, well, if I do these set of things, then that's never going to happen to me again, right? And become really rigid.
Yeah, we don't want to believe in that, but we want to defend ourselves and be more confident in ourselves.
Yeah.
Because an abuser looks for that vulnerable person who does not believe in themselves and is looking for somebody else to give them value.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's kind of like degrees of risk, really, kind of what you're talking about there. And, these little things, these little points and tippers. That's a new word, yay.
Yay.
Your little tippers
there you go.
Are great because they're very simple. Everyone here on the call today can take one of those, any of those, and just practice with it. Just try it out. And certainly, if as you've been listening to Trish and you've been thinking about this, what are we working at tonight? We're working at, first of all, the truth is that we do not have to be ashamed to tell our stories. And that in the telling of our stories, we also gain a lot of power, and we attack shame and guilt. And, when we keep things hidden and we try to pretend and try to, I don't want anyone to get very close to me because if they get too close to me, they're going to find this out about me. Like, you don't want to have that kind of shame. It keeps you disconnected. It keeps you from being in relationship, So coming to this place of it, yeah, exactly, acceptance and ownership, and that there are steps that you can take. There's a process. There are things that you can do, applying Trish's steps. There's certainly, other resources out there like togetherweheal.org that has some great options. There's the 12 steps for incest survivors website is great. And then certainly, one thing that I'm completely committed and dedicated
to you
is
as a coach. For those who are really struggling, I'm telling you to have someone like Rachel in your corner who has studied this and delved into it and on a psychological basis and on a brain development basis and can truly put the pieces together for you. Because to me, I know if there's any radio listeners out there, they've heard me talk about this many times and I've written many blogs on it. It is seriously like somebody has taken pieces of us, thrown them up in the air, they land on the floor in a huge mess, and like a jigsaw puzzle, we've got to pick up the pieces and try to understand how they fit into the puzzle of our life and mold and shape them so that they go into who we want to be today.
Exactly so. And, sometimes piecing all that together can be a bit puzzling. I love silly jokes.
Yes, it can.
And so thank you, Trish, for your, endorsement, so to speak, of my program. When I started out this work, it really was spurred on by my total frustration with the lack of care and support out there that was geared specifically for survivors of abuse. My therapists were great. They helped me to understand a lot of the reasons why I did some of the things I did, but they didn't get it. They didn't understand exactly what, and most importantly,
they draw a complete blank.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hold on a second. I thought that you had studied some of this. And, it's like before 1990, nobody ever talked about these things. So nobody is addressing them. And thankfully now we are seeing this uprising of voices and this truth finally being told, and no matter whatever fashion the survivor feels that they need to tell it, whether it be in blog writing, journal writing, therapy sessions, group sessions, the Ask a Support program with the Survivor to Thriver workbook. something that I used personally in my journey, and I treasure that workbook, and it's on my website as a resource, and so is your website. And, these are all tools that are there for us now. They're there for our kids. We have authors who are putting together books, lively, illustrated books that you can talk to your children about from that you can read while you're feeding them at birth. You don't have to wait until it happens. Yeah. Because if I know you know this as well as I do, and something that I stress in every speaking engagement that I do, molestation leaves no physical signs. You don't know if the baby getting their diaper changed in the next room is being molested by the person changing their diaper, whether it be male or female. You don't know if the potty training is involving molestation. You don't know if your little son or daughter is being tucked into bed at night and then visited by the devil. These molestation eats away at the emotional part of the child, but there are no physical signs. How many times do you see a rash on a young child's genital area and brush it away because, they didn't wipe so well, or they didn't clean so well, or they didn't bathe so well, or I forgot the diaper rash ointment, or whatever.
Yeah.
We see it time and time and time again, but yet inside that child is falling apart.
Yeah, and so, I think the bottom line of what Trish and I are pointing at right here is that there are so many resources available that you do not have to remain stuck where you are. And if anything, I have been so inspired by your story, Trish, because one of the things I talk about in my program is don't fall into the comparison trap. There is no trauma in competition. There's no such thing as her abuse is worse than my abuse is worse than his abuse. But when we do hear someone's story like yours, Trish, I think that it is a testament to the power and the resilience of the human spirit, as is everyone's story. But if you're that person who's sitting there going, oh, I don't know if I could ever get better, I'm just going to be stuck this way, there's no hope for me, man, just give Trish a call, and she'll tell you something different. And she probably not tell you where the
Give Rachel a call, send her an email, send me an email, whatever it takes. Connect on Facebook, connect on LinkedIn, Google+, Twitter. I'm out there all over the net. Rachel, I know you're out there all over the net. It's what we do. It's what we're passionate about. I've been working since I created the Survivors World Support Group in November 2010 when before the book even came out. And, I just needed to connect with others like myself and, to work towards that healing part together. And there's nothing more connecting than to be able to talk to somebody who knows exactly where you're stuck at and who understands that part.
Yeah, awesome. So
I've taken up all your time now.
No, you're fabulous. No, you're perfect to the minute. You're perfect. So we're going to switch gears here, folks, and we're going to go into the Q&A time now. And so, but before we do that, I just want to encourage everyone listening to visit butterflydreamsabuserecovery.com. Check out the resources that are there. You can certainly reach out to Trish on Facebook and via email. What's the best email for them to reach you at, Trish?
Is Trish, Trish, .mcknight@live.com. That's the best email to reach me at, or go to facebook.com/Tricia Girl, spelled TRICIA, Girl 62, Tricia Girl 62. You'll find me there. As I said, I'm all over the internet. You can always find me available, and I'm willing to help whoever is in that stuck position. And if I can't help you, I'm going to refer you to somebody who I believe can better help you. Because I truly believe, Rachel, that there is not one recovery system that works for all persons. I may need this type of resource in this hour, but in the next 5 minutes, I may need something else that you don't have.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And this is part of why, both of us, we strive to be really connected because, while my Beyond Surviving program is a great fit for some folks and it meets them exactly where they're at, what they need in the moment, other times I need to refer them out for other things. And so, being well connected is important for that. So, okay, folks, so here's how the Q&A is going to work. What I'm going to do is, first of all, remember to turn on the Q&A queue because sometimes I don't, and then it doesn't work. So.
There we go.
Okay, it's on. So that's done. It's on. And now how you get into the Q&A queue is by pressing *6 on your phone, and then I believe you'll be prompted to press the number 1 to come into the queue. So again, it's press *6, and then just follow whatever directions they give you. If you're in the queue, what I'm going to do is read the last 4 digits of your phone number, and then I'll call on you. I'll, open the line so that we can hear you talking. Please remember that this conversation is being recorded, and so if for any reason you'd like to have your section edited out of the recording, you can request that, and I will do so. You don't have to say your name, but if you'd like to say your name before you ask your question, that's great too. The second way that you can ask your question is by text. So you can text me at 650-283-5215. I'll say a number one more time in case you're grabbing a pen to try to jot it down. 650-283-5215. So if you're a little bashful about getting on the phone, no big deal. You can just text your question to me and I'll read it off. And, of course, we can work much more together if we're working on the phone, but totally use the text messaging as a method if that is your preference. So, and you can certainly address your question to Trish, to me, to both of us, whatever it is you like. So, okay, let's get started. People are popping on. You guys are on it tonight. Okay, so 0855. Go right ahead.
Hi, yes. I was wondering if Trish could repeat her Facebook name.
Sure, absolutely. It is facebook.com /Tricia, spelled TRICIA, girl 62. So facebook.com /Tricia girl 62. And I love making friends on there, so please do. If anybody's listening, go on over, send me a friend request, send me over a message. I love talking with people.
I would like to thank you both very, very much as well. It's not so much a question that I have, but to just say this is the first time that I participated in listening to other people's stories. I was abused at the age of 7 by my uncle. I'm 55 now, and only one family, well, actually 2, but not immediate. Niece and a cousin know. No one, my parents, no one knows what happened to me. And in therapy, and even though I'd been there for other issues, we're going to begin the journey of dealing with the abuse and listening to Tricia talk about the triggers in the outside world. It just really hit home for me because I don't think that, I have anxieties because I'm talking about physical. I have endometriosis, a history of that, which I understand 1 in 3 women who are sexually abused have. I also have systemic lupus, and I don't know that it all goes back to that. It's hard to say, but living with chronic illness in itself makes you feel vulnerable, and then having had the abuse is an added set of fears. So I do have a lot of anxiety when I go out, unless somebody's with me.
And probably a lot of depression as well that pops in and out of your life. I deal with a lot of chronic illness as well, not lupus. I do have fibromyalgia, which has been proven linked to the fight or flight risk that is ingrained in us as part of our DNA makeup. And the fibromyalgia reaction is from our muscles always being so tensed and in a heightened state. And after a while, our body forgets to relax.
Right.
And we just remain like that.
So, it's that you live with this for so long,
yes.
And you're not even aware till God knows when. I mean, fortunately for some people, maybe it's sooner than later. But for myself personally, I can say that I'm only first beginning to understand what that trauma has done for me and how it created the life that I've lived, not really understanding everything and who I am and, what I became because of that trauma. And it's a very big cycle to start, recognizing, and there's a lot of sadness in that.
I want you to do me a favor, and I want you to take a really deep breath and concentrate on that breath. When you breathe it in, I want you to hold it, and then I want you to just let it go. Just blow it out, and when you blow it out, I want you to think, number one, you're blowing out that bad that they put inside of you. And number two, you're beginning an entire new life journey. So it's not all bad. It's
scary.
It's scary,
Mm-hmm.
but it's never too late.
Mm-hmm.
You are most definitely worthy and deserving of safety and love and happiness. And it's out there, hon. I am a proven fact of that. It is out there. And
it's you just begin to recognize, and
absolutely.
The other thing you were saying, which I wanted to jump on things that you were saying, was that we're responsible for our doctor bills and all the things that have occurred because of the trauma. And I was just saying to my therapist, wouldn't it be great, people who are Holocaust survivors get a retribution? Why shouldn't we be entitled to some kind of retribution?
And they leave it up to us to go back and file civil suit against the abusers. But, if you've lived an entire lifetime in accepting that abuse, who is initially responsible for that?
But I also think you only have a certain amount of years.
Well, in civil suit, you can go back and sue at any time.
Oh,
in
okay.
most states. Okay.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, in civil suits, you can go back and sue at just about any point of your life. However, especially if you are just getting into recognizing how the pieces all fit together, okay? Because you've got your therapist to back you up in all of this, and you've got your physical side physicians who are there to connect the dots of how it is all put together and related. Plus, you can do your own studying. As I said, get familiar with it, understand how it all fits together. Unfortunately, the statute of limitations that is set forth in most states, because not all states have a statute of limitations now. Many have relaxed theirs to extend it out longer. Some of them have completely disintegrated them. Depends on the advocates in their state who have explained and spoken and been able to get the politicians on board. However, in criminal side, yes, there is a statute of limitations. In the civil side, even if you were to go back and sue for damages, where would you start at? Who would you sue?
Well, my uncle is the abuser. I mean, he's old now,
and initial abuse.
My grandmother used to babysit for me because my parents had a business, and he was an alcoholic, and my grandmother would leave the house with his wife to go shopping, and he would start his abuse.
Yeah, and it's ugly, and it makes you feel ugly and horrible, but...
And I never said anything because I figured my dad would be destroyed, and I don't know what he would do to him. And, you know, and then you say I know that it would be damaging to him, and he's been my support through all my illness. But at the same time, there are times where it's so hard to just not spit it out.
No. And you may want to, write him a letter. If you can't speak it, write him a letter.
Trish, do you mind if I jump in here just real quick?
Please do.
Yeah, just because something came to mind for me as you were talking about this last piece about, who do we tell and when do we tell and all of that. And one of the things that I've certainly learned through my work is that this piece of having the conversation and opening up and telling your story is a great step. And there are some foundational things that you want to have in place first before you go into that space, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I just want to, what I'm hearing from you and kind of feeling is that you're kind of in this first early stage. If you've just gotten out of what I call the victim stage, where it's like, oh, I don't really want to look at this or deal with this, and now you're kind of in the survivor stage where you're trying to piece it all together and put it all together. And so, that speed and just a little ahead without sure of like, how do I talk about it? And then when it starts to seem like you're really grounded in yourself, this is a mistake that I see people making, that they don't have enough sense of self before they take in telling their story, and definitely in talking to the abuser or talking to family members. They don't necessarily have the languaging or game plan to do. And so as you find yourself becoming more and more solid in who you are and understanding all of the pieces, that's a great time to then explore, having those conversations.
Right, so you're strong enough for any reaction that you may get.
Exactly right. Yeah, and so
you want to be prepared, because it's not always going to be it's not going to be roses once you open up the door. It's a door that you can't close back up.
Yeah, and my mother beat me. There's a lot of stuff there, and I actually asked her not too long ago. I said, "How did I stop going there?" And I forget what reasons I made to ask her. And first she's like, "I don't know." And then I approached it again, like a few weeks later, and I said, "Oh, how old was I?" And and she said, "You told me that he was making you sick." And that's all she said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, that is how generations before us were taught to deal with these types of things. So, we're breaking into new ground here in being public with everything. So take it at your pace.
Yeah.
With what you feel brave enough to face at that time.
Well, when you talked about before, like the pieces, picking up the pieces, I got so emotional. It was all of a sudden, for the first time, I felt like there are pieces of me everywhere. And I just wanted to come together,
There's sadness and grief, and the little girl that was so scared and didn't have a voice, and then there's the woman who had to go through everything, and then there's the mother, and then there's the regret. And then there's the anger, and there's the frustration, and there's the medical side of things, and it's just all.
My son always says, "Ma, you're always worried about something." I mean, he doesn't know. He's like, "You're always worried about something going wrong, and you've created anxiety in me."
Yeah. So, I'm so glad to hear a couple of things, though. That first of all, that you're getting support, and and hold your therapist, to the fire, like seriously, because, if she, what you want to be doing at this stage is really making the connections between what's going on in your life now and what happened in the past. And I just want to encourage you to spend time there, but don't stay there. because that's not where you want to live. You want to get on to what's next after that, right? So how do you actually deal with those things? And so if your therapist isn't able to speak to that part, give me a call, give Trish a call, and we'll point you towards those resources that will help you with that step, with those, that stage of the recovery and of the journey.
Your security levels and being able to, once you own it, then you've got to work past it. You don't want to stay in the past.
No, I don't. I want to feel free and alive again.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You want
because I thought I did, and then I realized. And you're it was not that it's an excuse, and I'm sure Trish can appreciate this, having illness, but having an illness is limiting, and you start to equate everything to the illness.
Yes.
I don't want to do that because I feel sick or whatever, but then you start to realize, well, there's this overlapping anxiety, which I'm realizing now that if I go out in the world alone and I'm ill, that's one vulnerability, but then with the overlapping fear of what happened and just not feeling safe, that's like a double cross.
Correct,
so,
it is. But you'll get past that.
I hope so.
Faith in yourself and believe that you are capable of doing this. Make sure you have Rachel's website information. Connect with me, whatever it takes, but you will get through this.
Thank you
so much. It's not the end of your life. It's the beginning of a new journey.
My niece just confided that there's another thing. My niece just confided, she was my favorite niece. There's a bunch of them, but she was my favorite. And her abuser was my favorite nephew. And she just confided in me, I knew she was abused, but she just confided in me recently it was him. And it's so conflicting now.
Indeed. And
that's a huge, that's a huge
responsibility.
Itself,
she's in therapy too now, and
so make sure we sorry.
Yeah, it's
so make sure
that needs some work and contact offline so that there's more time and more in-depth conversation about it. I know that Rachel, wants to go on to the next calls. Because,
right. Last question is there a way for my niece who was not able to join us tonight to listen to this conversation?
Rachel?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. When I... of course. So after tonight's call, maybe tomorrow morning, I will be putting together the recording, and we'll be emailing out the recording to everybody. So if you're registered on then you'll get that, and of course you can share with her. And I would be happy to speak with you offline about just that whole dynamic of, oh gosh, now there's other stuff happening in my family. So feel free to reach out and set up a time to chat with me.
Thank you.
I'd be more than happy to do that for you. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for getting on the call and sharing your story. And, again, breaking that silence and bringing forward yourself. I really appreciate that.
Thank you both.
Take good care.
Thank you so much.
Talk to you again soon.
Now.
You're welcome. Yeah, let's go on to the next question. I'm going to take one of the text questions here. So thanks, you guys, everyone, for being patient. And I'm certainly able to stay on the line for a while tonight, so please don't feel like you're not going to be heard or taken care of tonight. So one question was, I'll do this one because this one's kind of a straightforward. Were there handouts for the conference? No. Do you have links to Trish's story? Yes. You can get her book from the Butterfly Dreams Abuse Recovery website. Is that where they go to get your book, Trish?
Authorhouse.com, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. It's available paperback and ebook. If you just Google it, it'll come up on Goodreads, just about all of the book links that are out there.
Okay, and just in case you missed the title, it's called My Justice by,
Correct.
and is it by it's Tricia McKnight? It's under your real name?
Patricia McKnight, yes.
Okay, yeah, got it. And then there's a question about statute of limitations in the state of Texas for a criminal suit. Do you happen to know that?
Not offhand, I don't. But if you will email me your contact information, there is a website that I actually had attached to my favorites list, and it is a complete listing of statute of limitations across the entire United States for each individual state.
Mm-hmm.
So
I like that.
I'd be more than happy to share that with you. So connect with me on Facebook or email me at trish.mcknight@live.com, and I'll be more than happy to get that your way.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, cool. And then the next text question was, is it common for survivors to disown their parents if one of their parents was, in fact, the abuser? So, Trish, why don't you go first in just speaking to this? What's been your experience, and maybe what have you noticed or, heard from others?
For me personally, when my stepfather came into my life, I was absolutely cut off from my real father and his family. Never allowed to speak or see them or read letters or anything like that. So to me, my mother held my entire identity. In the normal mother-child relationship, we're always reaching out for their acceptance, for their approval, for them to praise us for doing something good. I actually chased after all of that with my mother until I was about 45, 46 years old. I only recently, in the last 5 years, maybe 5, 6 years, cut off all communication with her. I chose to do that. It was a decision that I had finally come to realize, because I had never blamed her for anything. Not for the neglect, not for allowing him to traffic me, not for allowing him to take me on their dates. Whatever it was, I never held her responsible. I finally was able to hold her responsible as I went through my healing process and realized that she had a duty. I was her child, and she literally gave me away like she was giving him a can of beer. So, to me, I absolutely had to cut off communication. Some people, most of the survivors that I speak with, that I work with, they have found that once they start telling their stories and they start realizing how it all played out and actually going through the process of absorbing the different actions and all that happened to them, that there was a responsibility of that parent or both parents, the abusive one and the non-abusive one. So it's a very personal decision that I feel each individual has to make for themselves.
Yeah. I think that's really well said, Trish. And, in my experience working with my clients, there's been quite a spread of experiences, actually, from a client who had completely cut off her father pretty much for the duration of the time that we were working together. My program is usually 8 months long, but we actually spread it out a little bit longer for her because she wanted to pace it a little bit differently. So in the first year of our working together, she had very little contact with her father and just basically, would say, if you want to text me, fine, but I'm not going to respond, and, these sorts of things. And then at a certain point, when she was ready, we had a mediation, and then they did some counseling together. She gave it a try, having a relationship with him, letting him into her life, and it didn't work. He was unable to move forward. It's a really beautiful thing in some ways that she had come so into her own truth and her own self that his attempts to undermine her were just so aggravating that it was like, ugh, I can't even deal with you. Like, just, no. Other clients I've had have completely restored their relationships with their parents and their abuser. I think there's a lot of room for both, and that it is a very personal journey. But I think what is underneath this is it's a hard thing, because at the end of the day, this is still like your mom or your dad, right? It's not like they stop being those people to you just because they are also an abuser. And it's a conflicted thing. It's a conflicted thing. And so the main thing to know is that you have the right, you have permission, you deserve to set whatever boundary and limit you need to set for your own safety. At the end of the day, this is your life. And protecting that is number one priority. And the rest of it, can shake out. We can figure that out. We can navigate that as it comes. So that's kind of my stand on it, and my perspective on it is I'm a big advocate for restoration. I think that restoring relationships is so healing and important, but it's not required, and it's definitely nothing bad or wrong if you choose to live a life distant from the person who abused you. So if that answers your question, awesome. If it doesn't, you can text some more and send a follow-up question, or even just if you want to reply with, what you got from what Trish and I just shared. That's awesome. Okay, we'll go on to the next caller. Tricia, I don't know how you are for time. Are you okay for hanging out?
I'm good.
Okay.
We're good.
All right. So 3068, go right ahead.
Is it 3068?
It is. It's you.
Oh, it's me.
Hi.
Okay. Hi.
Welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Aw, thanks. I actually just started working with Rachel. I'm from New York.
She's fabulous, isn't she? She's wonderful.
Yeah, she is. I have a question. When you talked about parts, like parts of yourself, I feel like there's a lot of parts still that are kind of stuck. And I feel them when I'm with people who are very nurturing. Like if I'm helping out with kids and the leader is very motherly, and all of a sudden I just feel like there's a part of me that comes alive or merges up, and it's kind of awkward, and sometimes I don't like it. But lately I've been that's just part of me that still needs something that didn't get. And I guess I just wondered, if anyone that you've talked to has
are you
ever
trying
felt
to say that, forgive me if I'm misunderstanding here, but are you trying to say that there's moments of connection and joy with your present life now, when you're in different situations where you can finally feel relaxed and you are questioning about the normalcy of that?
No, it's more like...
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It's more like there's parts of me that that maybe didn't get what they needed in development,
Okay, yes,
And
yes.
when I get around someone who is like there's some
nurturing
people,
and that parental
warm,
figure for you.
Really,
That's
really kind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, certain people, I just, and I'm just
you
drawn
glow.
to them at a level, that it's embarrassing almost, and people misperceive that.
You know what? I was the same way. I clung to those who were nice to me. And, anyone still to this day who comes into my life with nurturing or tenderness, kindness, understanding, even empathy, I am just so elated, and I stick to them. And I think that is really because of, the pieces of us were so distorted. We needed that kindness and that nurturing, but we're denied that. It was destroyed within us. There was nobody around that gave us that. So as we grow, it definitely continues to come out. You will find that as you go through your recovery, right now, you're in that beginning stages. You are going through, and you're realizing this about yourself. So, sweetie, kudos to you for that. That is fabulous that you're realizing that in you. Now, this is something that you see in yourself that you will start to be able to put together and to control your reactions and how close and how open you allow yourself to be with these people.
Yeah, because I just met with my old pastor, and he's like, you've always had so many walls up, and he's like, now you keep me at arm's length. He's like, but I want to get to know you. And I'm thinking, what does he want? He wants me to tell him my story, and I just don't see the point in that.
You're not
you know
ready.
What I mean?
You're not ready.
What do you want? What's the point in that, though? You know what I mean?
He's digging. You feel like he's invading that very secret part of you, and when somebody questions those parts of us, that past that we've buried down so deep inside, I believe that we feel a threat to us, to our personal safety, because that's our identity that nobody else knows about. And we will open up to whom we choose when we are ready. And
I think this is an important distinction that you're making here, Trish, is that as we've been talking about, speaking out and telling our stories, we are certainly not encouraging people to just shout it from the rooftops and tell anybody and everybody. In fact, this is one mistake that survivors often make early on when they start to feel empowered about their story. They're like, every person okay, listen to my story, here's my story, here's what happened to me. And it's almost like over-telling. And so there's a healthy balance, and there is definitely 100% choice about who you tell, when you tell them, what you share, and that you're completely at choice about that. You never have to tell your story to anyone just because they ask.
I don't even understand. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
I don't even understand why he's asking. You know what I mean? Like
there's only one way to figure that out, and that's to ask him.
Yeah. Because
you know what?
To me, it feels like he's trying to invade that very private part of you.
But why? I don't get it.
That's a part of you that only you can determine when and where and who to tell to. So, if you're not comfortable with that, and he's a minister or a pastor, you don't want to offend him. So, be kind, and you can say to him, yes, there are things that have happened, but I'm not ready to talk about that yet. And, leave it go at that. And if he truly respects what has anything, any kind of trauma that his church members have gone through, his parishioners have gone through, then he will certainly back off and maybe even say, when you feel you are ready, I am here.
Right.
And offer to be that person, but only when you are ready.
That's true. I left that church, but an elder and his wife had me over for dinner, and the guy was like, we just feel like you're hiding something. Because I was kind of really quiet, and, I played sports.
They actually said that to you? They felt like you were hiding something?
They're like, you don't really talk about your life, and you don't say anything. And I just, I talk about this, now. I don't go back into self, You're
living in that present. That's where you want to be in a public sense.
Yeah, and
that's okay. You're allowed to feel that way. When you are ready, you will decide who to talk to.
Amen. Well, he's like, you need to tell somebody everything. And I said, he goes, you just need to, and he goes, you're not going to heal unless you're going to talk about things. And I left there, and I got on the internet, and I emailed his wife, and I said, I tried that in the past. I told 2 women a lot of things about my life, and it was a big mistake. I said,
because they instantly judged you and shut you out.
No, they told other people.
Absolutely, and
then everybody went on this, and then everybody tried to heal me. But the thing is, even at the dinner table, I said, I said, why do you want me to tell you about my life? And he's like, we just want to help you get to where you need to be. And I looked at him and I said, you can't heal me.
In religion, in religion, what I have found, I am a very spiritual person. I believe strongly that there is a higher power, a creator, a God above who helps us through, who guides us, who brings us into this world and creates each and every one of us individually. I definitely believe in that. I believe that we all have a purpose and that there's a reason why things happen. But when it comes to church and religion, for me, it
so,
is...
Trish, can I just jump in here real quick?
Absolutely.
Let me just redirect a little bit, because I just don't want us to go down to too many rabbit trails.
Yes.
Sorry.
So, no, it's okay, but that's my job as coach.
Yes, indeed. That's what Rachel is good at. So let's let her go. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So, yes. So what I want to highlight are the key points in kind of what you brought forward, which is we all walk into these experiences, and there are going to be people who are curious about our lives, who want us to be able to share and talk about our experience, and we want to have a really healthy way of doing that. And there are very key ways, there are strategies that will help you in navigating these sorts of conversations and these sorts of situations. And really, talking about your story is very healing. Being able, just as Trish was able to just talk about her story, tell it, it's just an experience that happened, is important and an important place to get to. But there's structure around that. There are caveats to that. It's not just do it with anybody. It's not, the street corner preacher that you want to, sit down with and have that conversation with, somebody who isn't trained in how to respond and how to hear you and how to support you in that. And I hear that you're starting to notice, like, oh, I'm going to be a little bit more discerning about who I tell and when I tell them. And any reasons, whatever their motivations are, whatever reasons why they're asking, we don't know that. The only way we would know that is if we went to their house and knocked on the door and said, why are you asking about this? So the key thing that I want you to really hone in and focus on here, like the takeaway, is that in your space that you have the right and opportunity to choose when you share and what you share with anybody. And that if you practice that right and somebody gets upset, somebody becomes aggressive, that is about them. That has nothing to do with you. It's their inadequacy, it's their inability, it's their immaturity, whatever the case may be, right? So, if I were to give you a little homework, because I love homework as a coach, what I would encourage you to do is to think about what criteria you're going to use in order to determine what you're going to share and with whom. What are you actually going to look for? Yeah. Awesome. So work on that and then email me and let me know how it's going, okay?
I will, definitely. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
You're
welcome.
Bye-bye.
It was nice to meet you, Tricia.
Oh, you as well. Thank you, dear, so much, and good luck.
Thank you.
It's going to be okay.
Yeah, I'll talk to you, Rachel.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye there. Oh, I just adore her.
She's so sweet.
As all of my clients. I love them all.
They become our family.
Mhm. So we still have people in the queue, so I'm going to keep going if you're game to keep going. And thank you, everyone who's being patient and waiting for their turn. So a real quick question via text was, Rachel, what type of program do you offer? What type of therapy do you practice over the, it says here 1 month, but it's actually an 8-month period. So, I'll just very, very quickly speak to that. So I have a master's in counseling therapy, counseling psychology, I apologize, and I am a coach. So I practice coaching modalities. I do not practice therapy. I'm not a licensed therapist. And the program Beyond Surviving is, specifically designed for survivors of sexual abuse who are at a stage where they're past the point of talking about and kind of trying to make the connections about the abuse. And it's really the question that is on the table is, okay, what do I do about this? How do I actually now move on with my life? How do I deal with these areas where I'm feeling stuck and broken and not moving, and what do I actually do about that? So over the course of the 8 months, we do things like a little boot camp for the brain. So, Trish and I were talking about how the brain is impacted by trauma. So I teach you a little bit about that, but most importantly, I teach you some very specific skills and techniques for how to retrain the brain so that you get off of this cycle of ups and downs and negative patterns of thought and obsessive thinking, so that, we kind of give you a brain overhaul, so to speak. We also focus on letting go of shame and guilt and any belief that the abuse was your fault so that, you can stand up for yourself, you can speak up for yourself and not, kind of be run over or pushed over by other people. We also focus on things like relationships, breaking down barriers to connection, how to trust, how to have intimacy, how to be vulnerable. We address emotions like anger and anxiety and fear and abandonment, all those good guys. And ultimately, the purpose of the program is to help strip away, all of the junk that gets put onto us, right? And all those puzzle pieces that get tossed up and thrown down, like put it all back together, but put it all back together as it was originally meant to be, without all of the hurt, without all of the lies, without all of the pain. So you can be like your best, most authentic, wonderful self out in the world, and you get to show up that way all the time. And this is actually a program that I created based on my training in counseling psychology, my study of neuroscience, but most importantly, my own journey. Like I used myself as a guinea pig and basically tried stuff out and to figure out, okay, what works and that doesn't work, but this works. And
right.
And the other piece that I spoke about, which is very specifically thinking about the order of operations. What needs to come first? What comes next? You got to make sure you have this before you try this, et cetera. So it really builds on top of each other. And we just use my guidebook as the roadmap for our work together. So if you're interested in that, if that sounds like that's where I'm at, that's what I need. I offer a free 60-minute Discover Yourself Genuine Self-consultation, and you can sign up for that by going to the website. We'll get on the phone. We'll talk about, what are the beliefs that are stopping you from letting go of the pain of abuse. We're going to create that vision of who you really want to be, where it is you want to go, what that authentic self would look like. And I'm going to help you identify the obstacles, the stuff that's getting in the way, and then also figure out if the Beyond Surviving program is the best next step for you. And if for some reason not, then just as Trish said, I point you to the right resource. Like, okay, not this, let's go over here and let's get you here because this is what makes more sense for you then. So just go to the website, rachelgrantcoaching.com, and you'll see a box there where you can enter your name and your email, and then you'll be taken to my appointment calendar and can select a time for that. So thanks for that question, and I'm certainly happy to speak with anyone who's on the call tonight and is curious about that, or even just wants some support, and to get some clarity about where they're at and where they need to go. So please take advantage of that time. It's totally there for you. And if I didn't answer your question completely, you can feel free to text me again. Okay, so on to the next question, 3505. Go right ahead.
Okay, that's me, I think.
It is. Hi.
Hi. My name is Lisa. I was outside. I wasn't expecting it. It came kind of unexpectedly. I was also went through the abuse with my stepdad. It started, my mom and him got married when I was 6, and it started whenever I was 7 or 6.5, something like that. And I ended up telling someone about it whenever I told my school counselor. No, I actually told somebody that I spent the night with in my class what had happened, what was going on at home, and they told the school counselor. And so CPS came in and took me from the school, and they did all kind of the tests that they made me trust them, and the tests that they did to me were more kind of traumatizing than what I was going through, and it ended up saying there was no evidence of abuse. So I ended up going back into the home, and my family just kind of said that I was making it up and that I was lying and making it up for attention. So the abuse continued until I was an adult, and I never told anybody about it. I just totally blocked it out, totally it's crazy that your website's called Butterfly Dreams, because the day that my dad died, whenever I was 23 years old, there was actually a dead butterfly in my truck.
Oh, goodness.
I viewed as a sign from God, because there was no way that butterfly could have gotten in there. But when I got back to my truck, there was a dead butterfly sitting on my dash. And so I just looked at that as a way, I never wanted to tell anybody. Never, ever. I didn't think that, when I would hear of people talk about how they're struggling with this from their abuse, I was just like, oh, well, it can't be that bad because, I went through it and look at me, I'm doing fine. And I always used it as a way to be the best that I could be and not let what happened to me hold me back from being what I needed to be. I was at the point where I was a legal secretary for one of the best lawyers around, and I had my own business, and I was just on top of the world. And then when CPS was called on me, because I was in a very violent relationship with my son's dad, and they called CPS just to, try to hurt me. And that's when, when CPS come to me, that's when, it brought back all the post-traumatic of my childhood where I trusted them and, I just thought that they were against me. So I just ran away. I didn't know. I didn't know what to do, and I just got my kid back. a few months ago from all that. But during the whole year that I was gone, I just totally lost my mind. I got on drugs bad. I lost everything. I lost my car, my house, my everything.
Destructive, yes.
Right. So now I'm trying to, I've been studying a lot in the Bible of, how wounds in your soul from trauma and sin can affect every aspect of your life,
Indeed.
It gives the enemy legal right to inflict your mind, your will, and your emotions. And, my thing is I feel like I'm healing, and I feel like I'm getting, to the point to where I need to be, but yet it's when I try to sleep at nighttime, it's like everything, my mind is just racing with all these thoughts of all the mistakes that I've done in my past, and I can't sleep at night, so I end up wanting to sleep during the day, and I'm just trying to get over that depression feeling where, I isolate myself. I don't want to hang out with anybody. I don't want to hang out with any of my old friends because I don't want to do the things that I used to do, with the drugs and that life. It's where I'm just trying to get out of this isolation, this feeling of isolation, like everybody's going to hurt me, or, they end up living double lives, and I just
not who they say they are. Yes.
Right. That's what I'm struggling with is trying to get out of this isolation and trying to, get out and be who I need to be. I guess I kind of gave up on life. And
I would really like to strongly suggest the beginning tools that are on the Butterfly Dreams website, and just take them one at a time. Just look at them, because there's a little paragraph underneath each one of the highlighted tools. You'll see the steps to recovery as you scroll down the home page, and I'm putting that on the Facebook event page for this right now.
Okay.
So take a look at it. See if it works for you. See if there's pieces of it that actually help you put a goal together and to start accomplishing little things so that you can build your self-trust of being able to make a decision and trust that you are making the right decision and that, you can handle any backlash that might come from that decision.
Right,
also,
and like you were saying earlier about family, like, when I tried reaching out to my family and saying, look, this is what happened, and maybe this is why I was making the stupid decisions that I was making, was because I was being tormented, really, I tried committing suicide a few times, and I just, and I was struggling with that, and they just still continue to tell me that I'm just trying to get attention, or I'm making it up for attention when, they have no idea that I went from the time I was 7 years old until I was an adult going through, very horrible, abusive,
painful relationships.
With my stepdad, but at the same time, hiding it and making it look like he was the best dad in the world because I didn't want anybody to know how disgusting I felt, or how horrible it was, because I just didn't want them to know. So I just put on this whole
facade.
Fake.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Well, dear, you've got to find yourself again. You've got to find a center starting place, and you're there right now. You are at that point to where you don't want to be isolated by all of this. You want to climb out of this. You really want to find your own self and be happy with who you are. And that takes a lot of hard work, a lot of effort on your part. It does not just open the door and walk into your life.
Right.
It is something that, you're going to find, talking with Rachel, working through her program, the Survivor to Thriver program. I loved it because it's from the adult survivors of child abuse, and they also have a national network, the National Association of Adult Survivors of Child Abuse. But you can use this pamphlet, download it, or use it via the computer online. You don't have to download it, but I did.
I was just looking at, kind of taking a look at it as we were talking on my phone on your website.
And fabulous. It takes you through judging your safety, your sense of safety, and building your sense of safety in society, your support system, putting together a support system, who you trust in your circle, why you trust them.
That's what I have major issues with, is trust issues. I don't trust anybody. I isolate myself. And
yes. You're at the beginning. It's okay.
I put myself in a Celebrate Recovery program at my church, and then, I just find that, things happen there with, with the pastor's girlfriend. Me and her were getting close, and then she found out that she was living a whole double life, cheating on him, and I just kind of, that made me not want to go to that anymore.
Yeah, I really don't believe that, there are many in society who are good, trusting, worthy, and decent, kind people.
Right.
On the other hand, like you're finding out, not everyone is who they say they are.
Right.
And that's a personal judgment call. That's something you've got to build those skills in finding. Rachel's got an excellent step-by-step program to help you do that. Again, I highly refer the Ask a Survivor to Thriver program to work in your home. It takes you through all those steps. The little tools that I share, the support system across the Internet, use it all. Use whatever you are comfortable with, and you will find the pieces coming together. You honestly will. You believe in it. Feel it in your heart and know that it is there, because, trust me, that is the only thing that got me to the other side, is that I absolutely had to believe that I could do this.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Rachel, anything?
First of all, I hope what is coming through for everyone on the call is that, you're not alone in this. You struggle with trust. I struggled with trust. Patricia struggled with trust. We are unique, and we're also not that special. Because the problems in the areas that are impacted by abuse are, in some ways, predictable. And, we all, have our own unique twist on things sometimes, or the reasons why, or nuances about it. But the fact of the matter is that, it's normal what you're going through. And I don't know how many people on the call are actually in the San Francisco Bay Area, but I actually do an Ask a group once a month out here. So if you happen to be in San Francisco or nearby, that group is a free donation-based group, and so you can feel free to come along to check that out. But if you're not, there are definitely chapters around in the area, and the Ask a group is a great place. Again, it meets a very particular need. It's really, when you're in that place where you need to be able to talk about what happened, start expressing, your story, hear from other people, feel, a little bit connected to others, get some support and empathy and care. It's fabulous. And, when you're ready for the what's next, then, other programs are better suited for that. But I just want you to know, if you hear nothing else from this, that it's really normal what's going on, and it's totally doable to get past the things that you're talking about,
Right. And like the girl was talking about was sharing it with her pastor. I shared my story with my pastor, and he made me feel so condemned and so judged, and so just I don't know, I can't even explain it. That's why I just pretty much quit going, and that's not what I want to do.
Well, this is part of the reason why I think Trish and I fight so hard to get education out there about how to work with survivors. I do trainings with nonprofits. I talk to practitioners because people just don't get it. It's they're not even trying to be malicious. They just say stupid shit. Excuse my language.
Right.
I love you.
And it's not because they're trying to be mean or cruel. It's because they don't know any better. And if we have, in some ways, one of the things that I teach is compassion, because if you think about it, if you see somebody on the road with a broken leg, you know exactly what to do. You call 911, you get them stabilized, you make sure they stay still. You kind of know what for how to respond to that. When somebody tells you, I've been sexually abused, it's kind of and in the space of, is when stupid shit gets said.
Right.
And so, our job as survivors is, in some ways, to prepare people for how to respond to us. And it's not our fault if they say things that are ridiculous and dumb. It's our job to not take it in, to not make it about us. But we can also do a lot to set people up for success in how they hear us and how they respond. Even things like, I'd like to share with you something that's really difficult. And what I'd like you to do when I finish telling you my story is to just say, I get it, and that must have been hard. You give them the script. You tell them what to say,
Right.
And it just
Indeed,
changes.
Right? They don't understand it. again, remember that, other generations and society as a whole is not prepared, nor do they feel comfortable in discussing these issues and helping people like us to feel comfortable in who we are and appreciate the journey that we've survived. They do not have a clue as to the deep wounding impact of it, and even when we go out into the world, we never know what might hit us at any given moment. Yeah. So, prepare yourself and build yourself. And, again, a quote I use often, always believe that anything is possible with you in the active equation. You will do this.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Good for you. So keep in touch. Trish and I are certainly both here to support you and offer whatever care and guidance we can. So, I cheerlead you, and I'm behind you, and am absolutely confident that you can get where you want to go. Just make sure that you're constantly evaluating and advocating for the care and support that you're getting. And when people say ridiculous things, just remember that, they're just being ridiculous and don't know any better. It's like a 2-year-old who, does something silly.
They don't know any better.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Right. So keep us posted, okay?
Okay. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care of yourself now.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Next one up is 1960. Let's see. Uh-oh. Oops. Here we go. There we go. 1960.
Hi, Rachel. Hi, Trish.
Hello.
Hey, I recognize that voice.
Yeah, I got a cold.
Yeah, I can tell, honey. Are you okay?
Yeah, I just got a lung infection again.
Oh, my goodness, you poor thing. So battling with that. It's that time of year, right?
Yeah.
Yes, indeed, honey, yes.
I know.
So what did you think of our chat here tonight?
I thought it was really great.
Thank you,
very
sweetheart.
Informative for those that need the help, And you're right, we can't keep quiet. We have to speak out and use our voices and get over it and get moving to the future for ourselves.
For yourself, for your family, for your children and grandchildren, to have life.
Exactly.
We don't want to leave this world and not know what it's like to really live in our present day.
Yeah. I mean, we stay stuck back in the past, it's not going to get us anywhere. We're missing out on so much. And I found
So how are you doing in the journey, if I might ask?
Well, today, when I checked the calendar or my phone to see what day it was, today's the anniversary of my parents' wedding anniversary.
Well, honey.
And Rachel, they're both dead, by the way. And my dad was my abuser, and my mom was too, emotionally and physically. But you know what, Trish?
What?
It didn't bother me.
Yay! You go, girl.
And yet, Rachel, September 7th was my dad's birthday, and that really bothered me. So I don't get it. Like, why is it sometimes it bothers you and sometimes it doesn't?
Well, the brain has a funny way of creating associations, and so whatever the what happened, the experience of my father was born. This is a day when he would be celebrated of his life and him as an individual. What that kind of the associations that you have to that are perhaps a little bit more negative than the ones that you have associated to the idea of your parents coming into a union as a married couple, like becoming a couple. So even if you just look at that a little bit, When you think about this is the day that my father was born, and therefore, what comes into the blank right away?
Abuse.
Yeah.
And what he did to me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like if he had
also,
never been born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
But also,
of that ugly stuff may not have happened, right?
My case is a little bit different because I was adopted by them.
Yeah. So in some ways, that's an interesting. Oh, go ahead, Trish.
I'm so sorry, but I just popped open something here, and it's actually written by our caller. So I'm going to ask her. Can I read this for you?
Oh, sure, Trish. Go ahead.
Read this back to you, and I want you to listen to what you wrote.
Okay.
Okay? Be you. Be proud of who you are. Fight for the right to be strong, to be you. Have the courage to stand tall. Stand up for yourself. Love yourself for who you are. Don't let anyone take away your dreams. They are yours. Believe.
Yeah, you're right.
Gosh, so good. So good.
Right, thanks.
And, the brain is a funny thing. Some days one thing will set it off. Another day, nothing happens. And all it is neuronal pathways. It really is. It's just the way that the brain has been wired and the neuronal pathways that are going on. So mostly what I want to encourage you to do is to not make it mean anything. It's just for whatever reason, that day it was a little bit rougher. Today it was no big deal. And the more you create that way of being able to respond to those ups without going into a whole bunch of stuff, the more even-keeled, the more balanced things will become for you.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You get out of that up and down cycle.
Yeah.
Because here's the trap of humans in general, and then particularly people who've been abused. We love trying to figure stuff out. We will analyze it to death.
True.
And sometimes we run ourselves amok by getting into that and going to, trying to look too much for the why and how and all of that. When sometimes it's, whatever. The air was 52 degrees instead of 54. And that's, why we got upset. So just that little for you. I hope that helps a little bit too.
It does. Thanks, Rachel.
Put it in perspective.
Yeah, because like not next month, December, it's my mom's birthday too, so I'm thinking, okay, what kind of a day is that going to be? Okay, so keep on going and forget about it.
You're already analyzing that, though.
I know.
Yeah, exactly. Your brain is getting primed exactly for there's something that's going to happen. There's something coming. There's something coming.
Yeah.
So the more you can just be like, it's just a day.
Rachel, that we can often talk ourselves into living, into thinking of our past, that we, our present day world can be fine. We can have a great partner, and our life can be going well, and not that we don't get triggered, because life has its daily triggers that we have to deal with, whether it be a statement from somebody or a reaction from another person or something that we see somebody do or a color that we see. Those triggers, that secondary wounding is all there. But, there are many times that, especially when we are in a mode of depression or a mode of a time that is difficult for us, we can often lead ourselves back into living in our past.
Yeah. Well, the brain is like the brain is basically a huge highway of neuronal connections, and it's like think of it like roads that are going on in your brain, and the Your past, of course, is where the strongest memories are. They're the ones that have been there the longest. They're the ones that get revisited, reinforced most often. And so it's like a 1-lane road becomes a 2-lane road, becomes a 3-lane road. So it's very easy to get on that road, right? And we're familiar with it. We know how to drive it. It's kind of like, if you have a particular route that you always drive home from work, it's like you do it without even thinking about it. And if you ever go off course, it's like, wait, where do I turn now? Oh, yeah, now I got to go like around this way. And so that's what happens with us a lot of the times, is that we just get so used to certain patterns of thinking and certain processes that we get on that road and we're off in, whatever land, depression land, anxiety land, I hate men land, whatever it is, and we're there before we know it because of that old pathway that's just been there and been reinforced. And so our job, at least my perspective about recovery, is about getting off of those roads, building some exit ramps, figuring out new ways of processing and responding. And so when we find ourselves starting to the brain likes to kind of go back and revert to old ways. And we have to, the more we teach it the new ways, then that becomes the new normal and it can't revert back. But while we're in the process of moving forward, there's still like, oh yeah, there's this old way that I'm used to doing it. And so the brain tries to kind of go back to that space. And so having strategies and techniques for how to intercept that is where the work is. Yeah.
Okay. Because for the most part, I'm okay. Like Trish knows, I'm pretty well moved forward in that. But every once in a while, right, Trish?
Oh yeah.
Indeed.
Oh
and
yeah.
You know what, Ani, we all do it. Anyone that has come from this type of life, anyone that's had any form of trauma come into their life, there are going to be those days, there are going to be those times, there are going to be those months. It could be an entire season. Winter for me is such a depressing season because I can't get out. It's cold. My body hurts all the time. My body hurting all the time takes me into, why does my body hurt all the time? Well, that hurts all the time because if I wouldn't have been beaten with that chair, if I wouldn't have been smashed against that wall, if my head hadn't been, if I hadn't had those 4, 5, 6 concussions or those broken, if all of A, B, C, and D didn't happen, I wouldn't be stuck in this house right now.
Right, right.
And, we can't help it. It's our makeup. And that's where those tools of your writing, the positive energy that we can feed to another person or that we can absorb from another person, even going out for dinner with our partner, our husbands, our wives, our children, going to see a movie, going to have a cup of coffee with a friend, whatever it may be, getting out of the house and having that interaction with people is key to kind of distracting our brain from that sadness, from that memory, from that trigger.
Exactly.
I really believe in that, Rachel. What do you think?
Yeah, and the one distinction that I would make is that it's kind of like going from being triggered like every single minute of every single day to here and there. And when I talk about beyond surviving, I don't mean that stuff doesn't come up and that we don't get challenged by things. But the key distinction that I notice in my own life is two things are very, very different. How often that happens is way, 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 way less.
Right.
And when I do find myself going into that space, which I often call going into story or like making, being triggered, whatever you want to call it, that the duration, how long I stay there is much less.
Right.
I have the skills and tools for how do I get out of it. And by the way, on the days when I don't feel like getting out of it, where I'm like, whatever, I'm just going to lay here feeling triggered.
Indeed, right? I just want to stay in bed and feel like crap today because that's the mood that I'm in.
But the difference is that I'm watching myself do that. I'm seeing myself do that and choosing that, as opposed to, oh my God, my life is over and this is how it's always going to be, and I'm never going to get any better. That's the distinction. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Awesome.
Trish, I read your remember last year at Healing Through Creativity Festival?
Yes, dear.
How I
read your
did my
intro
song. To your song.
Yes.
Yeah, I just came back from the weekend down there.
Oh, how was the festival this year? Fabulous, I hope?
I wish I could say it was fabulous. There wasn't anybody there.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Nobody showed up, but I did the songs anyway, and we videotaped them. And then I read your introduction to your song.
Yes, Dancing Blue Eyes.
Dancing Blue Eyes. And I got through the intro, and then I started singing your song, and the memory in my camera got full. I couldn't finish.
Oh, boy.
Didn't that happen last year?
No, last year it was okay. But you know what I'm going to do is I haven't watched it yet, but if the intro is okay, I'm going to post that, and then I'll post last year's song with it.
Absolutely. Well, and I still have that song on my sound drive, on my cloud, and on the website and everything. So,
well, George is going to, I think, revamp it a little bit. He wants to change
Rachel,
it.
they actually
doesn't sound right to him.
They, this caller and George Robertson, the founder of Healing Through Creativity, actually took my beginning early years and put them into song.
Nice.
Wow.
Indeed,
right? Who's got a song out there about their beginning life in horrific abuse, right? But it's more about the sparkling blue eyes and how they changed over the years and what they've seen and what they had to go through. But, it's a powerful song, and I do share it. And every time I hear it, still to this day, and it's about, what, Mary, 2 years old now or a year and a half?
Yeah.
So still to this day, whenever I hear it, that is like my emotional expression song that I go to. We all have connect with music. I believe whenever, music can do fabulous things for us. It can lift us up. It can help us express sad emotions, put us in love, and so many other things. And that song still to this day is the song whenever I am feeling in that trapped, I just want to lay down here in bed and cry. That is the song that I use to help me get those emotions through my system, because I know that tomorrow's going to be a better day.
Nice. So thank you so much for coming and chatting with us. There are three more people.
Okay, so we really need to get through this. We don't want to leave anybody go. So sorry.
I'll let you go.
Thank you for sharing all that. And, and perhaps we'll find a way to get a hold of that song by chance. So here we go.
I have it. I'll give it to you. Yes, I'll give it to you. I have it.
Okay.
Thank you. Take such good care of you. And if you need anything, I'm here for you.
Love you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye. All right, 4245. Thank you so much for being so patient and hanging out. It's your turn.
Thank you. I appreciate you answering my questions. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate you answering my questions via text message. I also had some other questions. Currently, I'm a graduate student. I'm getting my MA in psychology to be licensed PC. And so I will be working with this population, but not only that, I'm working with a counselor myself to work on being my authentic self and working on trust, establishing close relationships, and becoming vulnerable. I am married, have a child, but I sense myself pulling away sometimes, and actually in recovery, the 12-step recovery program, I celebrated 10 years yesterday.
Nice.
But I was self-medicating for many, many years, age 15. And I think I'm self-medicating for multiple reasons. But some of those things that I have forgotten in my past are coming to life. Like I'm actually able to visualize and remember some things that I wasn't able to remember before, just due to being sober for so long, and being hypervigilant and having PTSD and the anxiety and the depression and everything, which is being treated, by medication and of course therapy. But my biggest question, and I was the one who asked about the statute of limitations in Texas.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Because I never actually brought this topic up with my biological father. And I think at age 4, no one stood up for me. I had to stand up for myself and tell my biological father's adopted mother, who I didn't know at the time was the adopted mother, that I felt very uncomfortable being alone with him and not to ever leave me alone with him again.
Yes, yes.
And at that point, I didn't understand why. I just knew I was very uncomfortable. And then, of course, we broke off contact until I was 18. After my mom remarried, I'm currently 32. I have a distant relationship with him because he lives further away. But occasionally he would drive down here to have lunch with me. But I think he's got some type of access to disorder. So, in addition to his own self-medicating with marijuana and other things, but I have that sense that doesn't happen, otherwise it wouldn't always be like hyper aroused and just, I don't know, using my shoulder uneasy and for I think that's going to happen. Like he told me from my mom in order to get her to go meet him, talk to her.
Let me jump in just real quick because I'm having a little bit of trouble. There's a little bit of and maybe Trish, this isn't happening for you, so that's why I want to check in with. Are you?
Yeah, no. There is
garbled,
like cell phone or issues.
Okay,
or something there.
Got it. So I think I've got. And getting the gist. So if what I would like to ask you to do is if you can kind of bottom line it for us. So in part because of time, but also in part because of I'm not going to shortchange you because you've been waiting or anything like that, but also because I think the phone is making it hard to discern. So if you can kind of if you your question, what's the top of your mind question that's kind of coming up right now?
To talk to him about it.
Whether or not.
About it.
Okay.
Whether or not I should actually bring it up if you tell me the truth. I wouldn't want to press charges at this time, but I know he's a danger to his grandchildren that he's around. So
what I would love for you to do is to schedule a time for us to talk, and we'll work very specifically on that because, I've done this before with other survivors who are having this particular question, and as I kind of mentioned or alluded to, is there are certain things that I would want to make sure that you have for yourself before you go forward with having that sort of conversation. And then even if you wanted to have the conversation, I'd want to share with you my game plan worksheet so that you can have some structure and you can prepare for it and you can have it in a way that is going to have you be safe and anyone else who is involved safe. So I think probably the best step would be for you and I to get on the phone and to chat about that more.
Yeah.
So what I would say is just go ahead and Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say I can still do that even though I'm seeing a therapist currently.
Oh yeah, you can totally talk with me. That's fine. And we'll make time for that. It's no big deal. Yeah, that's
okay.
Yeah. So just how you do that is you can email me directly, coach@rachelgrantcoaching.com, and send me some days and times that work for you. Or you can use the calendar on the website at under the services tab on my website and just pick a time and day, and that'll put you on the calendar right away. So, and then just when you do that, just can you just make a note to reference this conversation so I know who you are? Yeah. You know? So, like, hey, I'm the guy who's like wanting to know about how to have a conversation, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
Cool.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Good night, dear.
Yeah, awesome.
Good night.
All right. 7763. Go right ahead.
Oh, okay. Hi. My name's Allison. I met with you, Rachel, like a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Allison.
Hi. So I've had a few questions as I've listened to all of this, but I guess I'm just going to focus on one. I have a lot of, I'm really intrigued about the survivors to thrivers. I'm going to look at that, but it was a question for Trish. I have a real strong desire or guidance to write my story, and I ordered a book called, it's like How to Write Your Memoirs kind of book, and he uses like little exercises and from childhood. He really focuses on childhood, and I was just interested in your I have a lot of I just have a lot of empathy for your story, and I really I know a lot of people with a lot of very deep, complex PTSD trauma in that only discovered it, after several failed relationships by the time they were in their late 40s and 50s, and sometimes I think that somebody has to live a whole life to kind of see the effects of the real deep effects of all of this, and how really it can hurt, And I think that the most important thing for me is this coming out of freeze. I heard you mention the fight, flight, freeze response. You mentioned fight, flight, and that being stored in your body with the fibromyalgia and the other, and so I really hold on to that idea of freeze and healing the autonomic nervous system, and with just really safety and blue, which is pleasure, which is this coaching movement that's all about pleasure. And at the same time, I really appreciate your empathy, and I really feel you, So I just wanted to see how your process with writing your book was.
You know what, dear? Well, first off, as I shared in the beginning of the talk, was that the main key is that it was all of it was exploding inside of me, and I just absolutely had to get it out. And at that time, I didn't have any health insurance, couldn't go see a therapist, so my healing process began on my own. And writing it down as if I were, actually the book is a written apology and explanation for my children as to how everything played out, and the who, why of who their mother is, and how and why things invaded their lives the way they did. Mm-hmm. So for me, I actually took it. It was such a long process because I had to take it in my healing stages, and I would write out my very first memory, and I would detail everything that I could possibly remember about that first memory, even the happy ones. And I then took that collection of memories and journal writings and therapy sessions that I had in the past and started putting that together. For me, it was a process that more or less it's written that each chapter almost is its own separate event because I had to get that event out of my system. One person, Lynn Tolson, who I love dearly and I respect highly, she's the author of Beyond the Tears. And she has a program that she is founder of called Project for Tears, telling everyone about rape and suicide, which is the connection between everyone who's been sexually assaulted almost always feels a deep need of suicide at some point in their lives. And, you know, it is a truth, and we've found that out through talking with many people, and it was that way for me, you know. So I talk about that issue. I address it as if I'm telling the world this is what the child was thinking, and this is what the child had to endure. And then as I go into my woman stage, when I left my parents' home, that is the stage of this is the adult woman, and this is how the actions of my past and what I had been trained to tolerate affected who I was, and the choice of persons that I chose to be with and what I allowed in my life. This is how all of it played together. So, you know, for me, that's what works. Writing everything out as if I were to write to my children that explain it and work through it as each event came to me in my memory. And I could write out a chapter or an event situation, and I'd be in bed for a week crying like a baby. You know, my boyfriend had come home, and, you know, he's comforting me, and I'm standing there looking at him. I'll never forget the day that I looked him in the eye, and I'm like, standing there, and I got, you know, summertime, I got shorts and a T-shirt on, and I'm like, look at these ugly scars, and look at these broken teeth, and you're such a handsome man, and you can have anybody that you want out there. Why in the hell have you chose me? And how in the hell can you put up with me looking like this and being like this? And I hated myself for even going through the process of remembering everything. So it was very, very emotional for me to write my justice and to put all the pieces back together again.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. You know, you just reminded me. I just want to say that as a abuse survivor of every kind of abuse that I've gotten over the last 5 years, I do very consistent self-parenting dialoguing every morning with my inner child. And that's actually how this came up, was that it was like, as a loving parent to myself, how can I give myself justice? You know, and I'm an independent paralegal, and I think about justice, you know, and I've, you know, learned how to sue people, and I, you know, I got that fighter, you know, and I thought to myself, how am I gonna? So I love the name of your book, because that's actually, you know, that's actually what my motivation was. Like, if I really love this child, you know, which I do, I very much love myself today, you know, how can I give her justice? You know, what can I do? Because certainly the courts aren't going to do it. So what can I do that will actually make her feel like she got justice? Like, because otherwise I don't think I'm going to have peace in my life.
There is goodness, now I can't even think of the term for it. The book description on the back cover of My Justice, it says very clearly that I have finally found the courage to remove the coal-stained hand that snuck into my life, held me captive for over 30 years, and took away the most powerful tool that I have, my voice.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I've got that back now, and I'm not ashamed. I didn't ask for any of this to happen to me. I didn't stand there and say, use your favorite treasured shotgun and rip me apart on the inside, okay? And hand me off to your friends and beat me and use me as a slave and let me rot away. I was a child. I was their responsibility. They were in charge of the influence of who I was going to grow up to be. So the pattern it set in life for me, also, not my fault.
Yeah.
They built me. They created me. They made me. And they trained me. So these patterns of life that we live and how we continue it, it all comes from that very beginning, even the self-destructive mess that we become. It is from those attacks. And, we didn't ask for that. We were children.
Absolutely.
All we wanted was to be loved, to be nurtured, to be cared about. So they violated that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No doubt. I hope you'll keep us posted about your book, Allison.
Absolutely.
I
think it's actually already, a lot of it's written, but, it's kind of like, I like that idea of sort of how putting it together, because I've written so much already. So, but thank you so much. Thank you so much, both of you.
You're welcome.
Good night, okay?
Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
Awesome. Okay, final caller of the night. It's your turn, finally. Welcome.
Hi, caller. Thank you for being so patient.
And I'm not saying a number because there is no number. It's just a name. And I don't want to use your name, but I'll say the initials are LC. Are you still there? Oh, no. Is our final caller not there? Maybe you're on mute. Make sure your phone is not on mute because you're not muted on this side. Perhaps they fell asleep.
Hello, caller. Are you listening in?
Hello. Oh, my goodness. How funny.
Oh, goodness.
Well, okay, I will go ahead and clear that. And if, you can, if you have your question, you can certainly email me or Trish. And any of you who are here who had a question and didn't get a chance to get on the line, or if questions pop up after tonight's call, as they often do, Trish and I are both certainly here for you. So you can reach out to me at coach@rachelgrantcoaching.com, and you can also reach out to Trish at her Facebook or her email. And I just want to thank you again, Trish. My goodness, how generous you've been with your time and yourself tonight. So I just want to acknowledge you for that, and what a gift it was for me and everyone on the call. So thank you so much.
Oh, Rachel, thank you. You know that I respect you so much in your work and what you do, and it's so important to have people like you who are so real and so true and so down to earth to be able to connect with and get those steps and have that source of reality and be able to touch that heart. So thank you for having me here. It's been a pleasure and definitely an honor.
Cool. Well, I'm going to take everybody off of mute now. I'm going to take everybody off mute so you guys can say goodnight to everyone.
Hello, can you hear me?
Good night.
Yes.
Take care, everybody. Good night.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, caller.
Hello. I'm sorry, I came on the call late. Is there time for one more question?
There's always time for one more question.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Go right ahead. I'm so glad you called.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I apologize. I got on the call late.
No. Quite all right. Thank you so very much.
I was just kind of reading over the topic and hearing a bit about some of the other folks from the Q&A, and to give you the kind of the 30-second version, I'm curious as to, as I'm kind of evolving in this process, perhaps some suggestions in either not only therapy or coaching. I came forward about some abuse from an Olympic level coach about a year ago when I ran into somebody. I'm in my mid-30s and ran into somebody that we trained with, and came to realize I wasn't the only one, and literally from that conversation drove straight to the police station. And I'd actually been working with a coach, a life coach, who had done some swapping services with me, and she had me doing some work, and some of this stuff was really heavy on my mind, and I knew I had to do something about it. And it just so happened that the next day after one of our appointments, I ran into this other athlete, and we hadn't seen each other in 20 years, and a very small town in rural southeast Georgia, and went to the police station, and, I very naive kind of thought that once you report something like that, people go away.
Yeah.
And found out very quickly, they were great in terms of it went straight to kind of the state level, and also in that short amount of time, it found out.
So fabulous that they supported you in that side of it, because it is just beginning to happen, especially for male victims. So kudos. Right. I'm so happy for you.
Well, and it was kind of frustrating in that I found out it had been reported twice to law enforcement, local and county.
Nobody did anything about it.
And the reports actually evaporated, although some of my work I have copies of now coming to find out. But long story short, when it was turned over to the state level, there's now been 10 victims that have come forward. And the reason I came forward was really after having a conversation with this other athlete. I'm 8 years sober, and he had a month's worth of time, and it said once we kind of really, we didn't even bring it up. It wasn't a topic of conversation. It was a mention of something, and we looked at each other in the eyes, and it was like we knew. But right. He said he had made a commitment that if it ever came forward, he would be there to testify, et cetera, et cetera. And I really didn't have that courage, and I've been very fortunate in my life to have I've worked very hard and been on my own forever, and yada, yada, yada. But
very resilient and successful, and that's be proud of that. That's
right.
Fabulous.
And I refuse to give up. This man, we live in a small town. He has 5 karate schools in the region, and Elements sends school buses to pick up kids.
Yes.
Owns a couple buses, and it evolved, and the GBI came forward with the report, and the district attorney wrote a letter that said, we would have proceeded with that, indictments of, everything from child endangerment to sodomy to forced, every single thing. I think
right.
All said and done, after the victims they talked to, he would have been looking at double the charges Sandusky faced. And it's kind of interesting. It follows the same timeline. All that being said, the community, and there was 3 of the victims, and I've kind of been somewhat the leader in terms of encouraging, folks to do stuff, of course, on their own timeline and where they feel comfort. But, I've evolved into the leader of this group, if you will, from being the first person to come forward to liaising with law enforcement. And, the community completely turned against us. There were 3 of us that actually felt, and it's all textbook, but felt horrible for his family because we thought they're going to lose everything, and my parents sent me here I was living out of the country starting at 12 in the summers to live with them. But, finding out now, 3 of us, unbeknownst to each other, went and told his family, the allegations were true, even early in the investigation, law enforcement actually sent me in to talk to him because we all had a rapport. We all worked with him, for him afterwards. So twisted it is.
Oh, yeah, indeed, they do that. They become our trusted confidant, and, many abusers are that way. Mine wasn't. He was a controller and I was property, but, many, many, many abusers do that. That's what they do.
Well, I ended up, weirdly enough, he was dating somebody at the time when I came back after going to university, and, none of the abuse happened after that, but I ended up started dating his girlfriend at the time, and then we ended up getting married. So I'm married to my wife. Had a relationship with him, which is even more twisted as all this has come out.
Right.
But the law enforcement sent me in undercover in the beginning when they knew they were up against the statute of limitations issue to try and see if I could get him to reveal any current victims. And he admitted actually to me, doing, molesting me, but not to anything new. I kind of failed at that regard. But all said and done, these fellas who are kind of part of the good old boy network, and the community has really come out very, very strong against us, the ones that they know about. And it's really created a culture of just horrific proportions. And it got to the point where, and I've been also very fortunate in some of my life to meet some amazing people, and started just reaching out to anybody I knew within the State Department in Washington and New York, and attorneys and such. And I didn't know her at the time, but I sent an email. I was just sending email to random internet sites that dealt with this subject, and ended up now we're represented by Marcy Hamilton. I don't know if y'all have heard of her.
For some reason, that name triggers something in my head, but that I know a lot of people across the net.
Right.
So,
And she's, phenomenal. I think she represented a couple of Sandusky victims, and she's fought for some victim stuff that before the Supreme Court on child pornography, on as far as victims and how they can be compensated, et cetera, et cetera. And she's been phenomenal, and she called in some national level folks really to kind of combat some of the community hate towards us. And we have to see this guy all the time. We have parades and festivals, probably 6 a year, and he's there. And it's just, it's horrific. But my question is, I kind of became this de facto leader, and fortunately, and as these things take extraordinary amounts of time, the feds picked up the investigation because the abuse for us happened in probably 13, 14 different states, a couple different countries. We were all over the world and all over all the time. But that takes time, too. We're 14 months into this. And Sarah Ganim, who was I think the reporter, she won a Pulitzer for breaking the Sandusky story at Penn State, and she's we're working with her, but, we're not really can't do anything until the feds make a move. And
correct.
And I guess where my real question lies is there's been something unanticipated and things that I just wasn't at all prepared for, the longevity of this process, the toll it's taken on my marriage, which was broken beforehand for all the textbook reasons, and now I'm understanding, but is even worse at the moment. And as I'm kind of going through this process, and Marcy, who's like I said, our attorney, has been phenomenal in terms of trying to set us up with folks with the I think he's the executive director, the president of Male Survivor, and some other folks, and but what can I look, as far as try and anticipate or be prepared, or how can I better be prepared? Is this one, if it does go well and the feds do make an arrest, and I'm also now suddenly found myself on the committee with several legislators trying to change, Marcy's kind of an interesting attorney. Well, if we can't get him civilly, and that's what her first thing was to, first things first is to ensure that he can't do this anymore and can be held accountable criminally. And if that isn't possible, then civilly. So she's written the legislation, and I'm working to change the law in the next legislative session for civil SOL here in Georgia with retroactivity. But I'm just wondering, what, should I be, in addition to a therapist, which I kind of fell off on, should I be seeing a coach? Should I, check back with the woman who I started working with, who's odd?
Just make sure that you've got some support. I don't always say that therapy is the key, because we don't always connect well with therapists. We kind of have to feel ourselves and determine, at least for me, what kind of support do I need. And, it sounds to me like you've got so much going on. And, you know how the Sandusky trial played out.
Yeah.
Massive, nationwide and worldwide, and with all of the different countries and states that you've been in and the federal level that you're looking at, it's going to take time. Now, I do have a contact. If you don't already have a victim specialist contact on the FBI level, I do have a personal friend who is also an FBI victim specialist. I will be more than happy to email you her information. I will give her a call, let her know to expect a contact from you. She is amazing, and she is the brightest and happiest person I think I've ever met in my life, but also has her own painful past. So the empathy and the understanding as well. And she is actually the person who invited me to sit on the Illinois Victims Assistance Network rebuilding team. She is immensely wonderful and supportive and full of on-the-spot, in-her-head resources.
That would be great. The investigating agency is the Department of Homeland Security with my case, but she would probably.
She's wonderful, and she would probably be someone who can, not only inform you of all of the federal level steps, but also of different resources, that you may need. Sometimes you may just need to know that you've got a good friend, okay? That you can share, God, I had a fight with the wife today and it was horrible and we fell apart and I don't know what's going to happen with my marriage. And at other times you may be feeling, God, I'm so damn angry over what he did to me, and, to think that he's being praised by the community and we're being so damn condemned. Sometimes we just need a friend. Sometimes we need true support. So I would say take it, I will be more than happy to connect with you. I know that Rachel will. I would love to send you my friend's contact over at the FBI office so that you can have the official federal victim specialist. But, and if she can't help you, she'll put you in touch with someone in your area who definitely can.
And that's what, my therapist had said, what's it going to take? To not move on, because he said, what is it going to take for you to have this as part of you, but move together in a positive way? And, really asked me to outline that as far as what I thought. And for me, part of coming forward was, I'm fortunate as I have access to a therapist or, and have the resources to, although not using it, but, the other fellas, they don't. And they they have to sit in church on Sunday with, their wives at Bible study and hear people saying, can we please pray for, Craig Peoples and his poor family, and so.
Bull crap. I'm sorry for the language, but bull crap.
Yeah.
but that's the result, I think. as we were talking before about, we become burdened for our own long-term medical care, for therapy, for everything that we need to help us move forward. And there's no burden put back. And if there is ever any kind of retribution, it takes years for that to come through. So, we're stuck. Some people are able to have that access, some people do not. And, for your friends, for the other victims of this monster, and I'm sure a child predator of many children, is being praised just like everybody stood around Sandusky. And now we know exactly what kind of a monster he is.
It's even more insane that not only incidentally and accidentally, I got a message from the state, the GBI, during the investigation 9 months ago that they were arresting another instructor there for molesting little girls. And they said, we weren't even looking, and it was a result of kind of us poking around and some parents asked some questions. So now I'm also sitting through that trial as well as trying to assist the DA, which is the same DA that's covered up the other, it's this giant game of waiting for the chips to fall where they may, but it's definitely taken a toll, and I find myself clinging and even delving further into such self-destructive behaviors that, I picked up around abuse, and it's very frustrating and can be all-encompassing.
It's draining and constantly there. And I'm sure that's got to be so difficult for you. I'm so sorry. Again, feel the resources out. The Male Survivor Network, Christopher I believe is his name. He, from what I understand, everybody that's worked with him, he's a fabulous man.
He and I have talked a couple times, but it's just a little challenging in that he'll be there, I'm sure, for press conferences and such.
Yeah.
It's West Coast, and I'm on the East Coast, and in trying to put together something meaningful for some of these other fellas, it's like it's a challenge, and that's what I have to realize is we are more.
Well, I think that there's also an Ask a Support group on the East Coast. If you email me your location and a contact information where I can reach you, I will email you the information that I have for the FBI resources, and also see if we can find an ASCA system that's close to you, or another network who specifically deals and is trained in working with male survivors. Because even though there's a lot of resources, not all of those resources are used to dealing with male victims.
Yeah.
And
it's already,
say that.
Yeah. It's deep rural South. These other fellas, they.
Exactly.
So, unfortunately, the homosexual, it's like there's, 6 out people in our community, and 2 of them are halfway related to this guy, and they're championing him as, it was experimentation. And I'm like, gay people have enough challenge in the deep rural South.
Exactly.
Don't take this guy on as your cause.
Exactly, right?
And
that's so sad. God, I would love to talk to you more. Can we talk offline? Can you email me and we can talk more offline? I would definitely love to talk to you more if you would like to. It's completely open-ended on your on your end. Okay, take it as it comes to you. But I would love to talk to you more. And I know that Rachel is she's an excellent coach in helping survivors of sexual abuse, male and female both, at finding their stuck spots and connecting the pieces that need to be the next step for them. So,
right.
I highly recommend her, of course. But we've also got a lot of other resources that are out there, and, sometimes it just takes some digging to be able to find those, especially for men. So, email me at...
hold on just one sec. Let me pull it up so I can type it in here. Sorry.
Yes, please.
All righty, go ahead.
Okay, it's Trish, Trish, dot McKnight, McKnight, at live.com.
Okay.
Send me over your email, your info, and let's talk some more and let's communicate some more. And I definitely would love to stay in touch. Just follow along with your story and see how this all plays out for you. I'm so glad you called.
Well, thank you, and I apologize for being late to the call.
No. That's quite all right. I'm just so glad that you did call in, and we did get a chance to speak. And we will connect more offline. And again, Rachel's website at rachelgrantcoaching.com.
Okay.
And she's got this great little calendar tool that you can actually go in and set up your own free time for 30 or an hour consult with her and some time to speak with her. But she's there. Rachel, are you still there? Rachel? Oh, don't hear her anymore. But I know that she would be more than happy to work with you as well.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. I just, it's frustrating. Like, I can't
That's
get...
so funny. I ended up on mute. How funny is that?
Oh, there you are.
I muted myself.
I was promoting you like crazy. Where'd you go?
Oh, my God. I was like, that's fabulous. So, guys, so one thing that comes to mind is definitely shoot me an email, coach@rachelgrantcoaching.com, and I will share with you the 3 stages of recovery teleseminar that I did, because I think what you're questioning is what I'm hearing. I mean, there's a whole lot of things going on, but it's also like, am I getting the right care for where I am in my journey? And so that particular teleseminar will help kind of help you figure that out and sort that out a little bit. So if you email me and just say, can you send me the link to that, teleseminar, then I'll send that along. So thank you so much for being here and chatting with us. And I think we're going to try one other person, Trish, if you're up for it.
Oh, sure. Hey, before we go on to that other person, I just wanted to ask you, isn't David with Together We Heal is down in Florida?
Yeah.
So, he would be
Georgia.
another.
Yeah, I think Marcy may have connected me with him, too. I just haven't reached out. And another gentleman,
I guess.
Fabulous. David Clossie, is that who it is?
David Pittman with Together We Heal. And you can just Google that. He's also on Facebook. Just a young, fabulous, incredible supporter of all victims, and he's actually making great waves at changing legislation, I believe, in Florida, as well as building more support groups around his southern area there. So,
and that's the also challenge I face is that I feel
guys, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But
we really got to go on to the next call.
Yeah.
So more in the email, okay?
Thank you for your patience, and I apologize for interrupting the queue there.
Oh, thank you so much.
Fine.
Have a good night now.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Everybody is more than welcome, and and so it's just a matter of making sure we get off before midnight. So, but I know you love to talk, and I love to talk too. So, all right, I'm going to try one more time the previous caller who we couldn't hear. Let me take you off mute.
Okay.
Elsie, are you there? Well, that's just unusual. I'm not sure why she's not coming through.
Coming through.
Yeah. So she did in the events page. I'm totally assuming this person. Where is the event? Where did it go?
I was just on it. Let me get back there real quick.
She posted a question. There we go. I think I'm making an assumption that this is a gal, but I actually don't know that for sure. So I apologize if you're not a gal. But
right.
Go either way. But the question, what was up was.
Okay. I see. The country and area code to the number, is that the one that you're?
No. Anyway, the thought was just a worldwide law enforcement. Like, given everything that we know about the brain and how the brain is impacted by trauma, why are we not using more of this in like trials and in prosecution? And using and why are lawyers and judges not? I don't know that this is necessarily a full question, but it's a good point. I think there's a lot that's trying to be done. There are a lot of different layers and nuances to all this, and just even educating doctors about asking about sexual abuse, trauma and all of this. It's there are so many layers, and I think there are definitely strides being pushed forward in lots of areas, but that could be a whole teleseminar in and of itself. It's a really smart, beautiful question.
Did a speaking engagement for healthcare professionals on the Healthcare Act, which were implements that they wanted to put in place so that every time a person walked into a doctor's office or a hospital, they got 5 minutes of privacy completely alone with the medical tech and the doctor to be asked the simple question of, are you safe? It is something that we are definitely, it was Dr. Elaine Alpert, who is with the Global Human Health Services out of Boston, Mass. And she came to do a training education seminar I was at, and I shared the speaking venue with her. But it is something that is being looked at, is being worked on, and anytime you get the opportunity to speak with or speak in front of healthcare professionals, law enforcement, I've now become a certified human trafficking trainer. So that was all part of trying to reach out and build that community event that I was telling you about earlier. But it is crucial, and it is a whole nother teleseminar to get on that topic of the appropriate training for them and how to encourage them. I've talked to my OB, my gynae doctor whenever I've gone into her, and I've talked to the emergency room people here, first responders, that type of people. So it is crucial, and it is a whole nother teleseminar to get on that.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I feel that I must release you into your life again. I've taken 3 hours.
Indeed, it is a bit. It is late, everyone.
I
know
goodness.
that West Coast, it's not that late yet, but I'm Central Time. It's 11:15 here.
Man, you are such a trooper, and thank you to everyone who's still on the call. There's still people hanging out on the call, which is so cool. And
that is amazing. Thank you, everybody. Oh my God, how awesome!
Absolutely. So I'll be sending out the recording, everyone. And again, Trish, I just so appreciate you and thank you. And everyone, stay in touch. I'll be doing a teleseminar in October, Shake Off the Shame. So keep an eye out for that. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, certainly feel free to reach out to either of us. And in the meantime, take good care of you. Be your best, most wonderful selves, and we'll see you again soon.
Take care, everybody, and thank you all so very much. Rachel, respect and love to you always. Survivors, you can do this. We're not broken. We're not damaged. We just have to learn how to live. So thanks, everybody.
Trish.
Have a great night.
Good night, all.